You have to give a certain amount of your tips into that pool, and that's fine. But what she was told at her restaurant is, well, now that your minimum wage has gone up, you are going to have to put more money into the tip pool because you can afford it. So that's yet another effect that this whole minimum wage hike has had on people working in restaurants. So I would just say, kudos to any employer who can get the minimum wage right with all these different minimum wages in, Los Angeles County versus Ventura County versus Burbank versus the city of LA. Very confusing. And I know it's somewhat anecdotal, but I have just noticed quite a few restaurants closing from the minimum wage hikes, quite a few reports that their restaurants, family restaurants, have been in the family 50 years, and the owner is getting older, they're 70, and they say that they've decided to close down and not renew a lease because of these minimum wage hikes. So it does seem to be affecting business, and I think that small businesses really are bearing the brunt of this. Just to give you an example of the escalation of this minimum wage hike, we had $9 an hour in 2014. And if you go by the most extreme hike right now, the Los Angeles County $14.25 an hour, that's about a 37% increase in 5 years. And the 1425 law for LA County did not go into effect in 2020. It was in effect in 2019. So, 37% is a big hike. And even if you go the smallest hike for the businesses, depending on their size and all that, it's still a 32% hike in just 5 years. So has that driven up wages all across the board? Maybe it has. And it may be just discouraging employers from actually wanting to hire people. I've noticed some trends which I found very disturbing in the legal business. I found that, of course, there are people not like me that they have a cookie cutter approach to these cases. They just want a whole bunch of them, and they have a position called a case manager that has a high school diploma generally, and they make $60,000 a year. They want $30 an hour. They may be someone who's 21, 22 years old. And in the legal business, you just can't find workers anymore for under probably $25 an hour, just someone to file papers, very routine tasks. So there's been a huge escalation that I see in the legal business. And you may know that I also run a construction business, and I don't hire day laborers. My people are on payroll. I pay workers' comp, but I have heard reports that the day laborers at Home Depot now want $200 a day for 6 hours of work because they want to be driven back and forth. And they also want their lunch break. So I don't know who can afford this. It just seems like the price of all this has gotten to be very, very high. So I don't know. I think it's the biggest problem that's going to affect the California workplace in 2020. I don't think that it's necessarily binding arbitration that you've heard quite a bit about lately. 67% of all employers have binding arbitration policies, and it means the employee has to arbitrate their case and they can't go to court. But I don't think that's the downfall of employees or employers. The cases have been moving in arbitration for years. I do plenty of them that way. I think it's this issue with minimum wage, and it's going to keep going up too. And I know we hear about all the rent hikes in LA and everything. I don't know. I think we're pricing ourselves out of being able to have employees in California and in Los Angeles County. And that, I think, is the biggest problem confronting the workforce in 2020. So if you have a wrongful termination case, an unpaid wage case, sexual harassment, I'd like to hear from you during normal business hours. I'm Karl Gerber, 877-525-0700. Once again, 877-525-0700 for me during normal business hours. 877-525-0700 for a labor lawyer who can be serious, as you're hearing tonight, and also can be very funny, as usually happens on this show, except for once every 4 months. All right, this is Talk Radio 790 KBC, and we'll be back in a minute or two to hear more about all this minimum wage stuff.
Meetings, things can be a beating. The same things over and over, repeating. But I'm listening well with my paper and pen. Good eye contact, keep the doodles to a minimum. Whatever.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a consistent force in fighting for the rights of California employees. They've represented thousands of employees in cases in which they've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, discriminated against at work, or owed wages individually or as a group such as a class action. The Employment Lawyers Group has maintained a high win rate and a serious record before the California courts. Please call 877-525-0700 for an experienced work lawyer. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, research the firm at worklawyerca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. If you hire the Employment Lawyers Group, your legal problem becomes theirs to solve.
America's largest producer of gun shows, Crossroads of the West, is back this weekend at the OC Fair and Event Center. Great deals on guns, ammo, accessories, and you can buy, sell, and trade. All sales are conducted in compliance with applicable laws.
Shark Bites with Clark the Shark.
Hey, it's Randy, and I'm sitting here with my buddy Clark Fielding of Fielding Law. And look at this, Clark. The holiday season is already upon us, and we know what that means. Traffic is about to get even crazier out there.
The sad truth is, during the holiday season, there's an increase in accidents. You have distracted drivers on their cell phones. You have drivers who are driving under the influence.
You have drivers doing their last-minute shopping on Amazon.
You do. And so what you should do is you should put my phone number in your cell phone. I should be the first person you call after an accident.
That number is, put it in your phone now, 833-88-SHARK. That's 833-88-SHARK. 833-887-4275. Put it under the contact, Clark the Shark. That way you'll know who to call. You also want to bookmark the website on your phone, clarkthesharklaw.com. If anything happens this holiday season, you'll be prepared. That's clarkthesharklaw.com.
O'Reilly! A rough-running engine could be suffering from buildup of fuel and oil deposits, but Seafoam motor treatment for $7.99 at O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Clean out built-up sludge and improve fuel economy with Seafoam motor treatment on sale for $7.99 each at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Retirement should be one of the best times of your life, and it can be, as long as you're not worried about money. Join us at a complimentary Retirement Planners of America seminar, and we'll show you how to protect and maximize your retirement savings so your money lasts as long as you do.
Next seminar is Saturday, January 18th at the Sheraton Pasadena Hotel.
At Retirement Planners of America, we want your money to last as long as you do. Learn more at rpoa.com.
From East LA to West LA, get it right. AM 790 KABC.
There's no one up in here working harder than me. Grousing.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, a real workplace lawyer licensed in 4 states. And I'm disappointed in those commercials. I was hoping we would have heard something about colon health. I mean, with that lead up I gave in the beginning of this show. All right, tonight we're at least serious for the next, 12 minutes or so, because we're talking about the biggest problems facing the California workforce in 2020. But next week we will be having a witch hunt on this station, and I think that's really what people want to hear. It's going to be another weird one. So, but tonight, if you want to call in, you got a couple more minutes to do it, because after 7:30, we switched to Los Angeles history. If you want to call in and tell us what you think the biggest problem is confronting the California workplace, 800-222-5222, 800-222-5222, 800-222-5222. Okay, so before we broke, I think the biggest problem confronting the workforce in 2020 is all these minimum wage hikes, and that's for real. And I think it's going to lead, and it already has led, to an inability of a lot of companies to be able to find reasonably priced labor and to retain labor, because at a certain point, why work in a small office when you can work for Walmart, which has 26 or more employees, and start at $14.25 an hour. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, but a lot of people are within, let's say, 20-30% of that. And so all of a sudden they're making a lot of money because they're at employers that are more than 26 employees and the minimum wage is higher for them. So that is what we're talking about tonight. You may have another issue, and I'd like to know, because I think the California workforce is obviously something that matters to us. And other thing is, I'm wondering about training. If you spend a lot of money training somebody, well, that's a problem at a certain point if you're not going to have them. So I see people calling in, but they're not necessarily identifying themselves or saying anything. So if you want to call in, you got to tell our call screeners what it is you want to talk about, and you got to say what your name is, or I can't put you on the air, okay? And this is the rare time every 4 months that I take live callers on this show, because usually we're doing sketch comedy about employment law. So I also think that you're going to have problems with employers just wasting a lot of money on employees because they hire these people and they, may want to work under the table. That's my other concern, because the under the table cash-based economy in California for labor is actually very large. And I think that there's a certain number of employees that want to be paid in cash, and the employer says, well, look, $14.25 an hour in taxes and workers' comp, especially in construction, where it can be about $6 an hour for a general labor, your workers' comp. I will give you $20 an hour and I'm not going to tax you. And, are you happy with that? Maybe they will be. But I don't know. I think that they actually want more than that. I'm finding that in construction, people want considerably more than that. And that has jumped or doubled in the last few years. But I'm concerned that there's going to be a lot of this under the table. You're paid in cash. I'm avoiding paying taxes. My employer is taxing you. I'm avoiding workers' comp. And this is the way to give you more money, being that now everyone is making more. So I have talked to a lot of small business owners, and they feel strongly about this too. I see another person on the phone here, and I have some time to put you on if you're ready to talk about what you think the most important issue facing the workforce in California is at this point. So I'm ready to take a caller on this issue and see what they have to say. Hi, do we have Victor on the phone?
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, Victor. I'm just hanging out in this gigantic studio where I think Dr. Drew used to broadcast his shows. So what do you think?
Well, my personal problem with the workforce and whatnot is it's with the governor, Gavin Newsom, at the moment right now. I don't know. I see a lot of different things that he's been putting through. I think it's SB 5 or SB 50.
AB 5 has been talked about exhaustively on this show with some of the strangest employees in history. We had the Yanni lady. She gives Yanni massages, and Remus Helms, the most important man in Sun Valley, California, he doesn't want to have her there anymore because he doesn't want her to be an employee. Now she has to be. So AB 5 is a hot topic. It's the law that says that it's very hard now to call somebody an independent contractor, but there's a whole bunch of exceptions to it. Are you an independent contractor?
I part-time work with independent contracting. I work for like Amazon Flex on the nights away from my other job.
What do you do there?
Yeah.
And what do you do at Amazon Flex?
It's delivering packages.
I don't know.
It's on like a 3-hour
Are you
basis.
there with us?
Hello?
Hi, Victor. We're still here.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, it's I deliver packages for them. It's on a 3-hour time schedule. You just pick a 3-hour time during the day that they have available, and you get hours. I think it's like something like $64 for the 3 hours.
So do you independently deliver packages anywhere else besides for Amazon?
No, I don't.
And you don't have your own business, do you?
No.
So technically, I don't think you're an independent contractor there anymore.
Well, under the law, supposedly I'm not, but I don't know, multiple different companies like Instacart, Amazon, like DoorDash, they're trying to fight against AB5, I believe.
There are some attempts at fights, but, good luck. It's the legislature, and it codifies what the California Supreme Court said in Dynamex, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I have one of those cases with some kind of a food delivery service, and the people there make less than minimum wage. It sounds like you're actually making something there.
Is that Instacart, Maple Bear?
No, it's an office catering company. And I would just say for the wage and hour lawyers out there, I'm one of them. Everyone has got these cases, and I don't know what's going to happen. That's why they're making the people like you sign these arbitration agreements, so you can't have a class action and you'd have to independently sue. And the stories and what I've been reading about in the legal newspapers is some of these lawyers have decided, fine, arbitration for one person. I'm filing 3,000 separate arbitrations, and the company refuses to pay the arbitration fees and all kinds of things. And the case just kind of goes back to court. So it's a very interesting situation at this point with the whole independent contractor thing. And I would agree with Victor that most people are going to tell you that AB5, the whole independent contractor versus employee issue, is the hottest issue affecting the California workforce. But, not all of us are in the gig economy. Not all of us are misclassified as independent contractors.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I think some of the other problems, just coming out of the legislature in Sacramento, I think there's a lot of different issues that are coming out of there at the moment.
There are a lot, and in my opinion, I think, and this is strange because I represent employees and I use all these laws, I think there are too many labor laws. I think it's become completely impossible for the average employer to understand any of this. They need in-house counsel, and the laws just keep changing, and there are too many. I think there needs to be another way of doing it. So, Victor, I thank you for calling in. We're going to actually have to go now. And
thank you very much.
Thanks for calling, Victor. I would agree with Victor that the whole AB5 thing is big. I see the minimum wage hike as being big. I think those are the two biggest issues for California. But, in terms of independent contractors are misclassified, and I've covered that on this show. You can go to the Karl Gerber with a K channel on YouTube. There are all kinds of phone sex operators, bizarre employees that were misclassified, very funny shows. Go listen to it. But those people a lot of times are really being taken advantage of, and they're not making much at all. They're making less than minimum wage. They're not getting mileage. So if you've got a real labor problem, call me at the office, 877-525-0700. 877-525-0700 for the original employment lawyer in Los Angeles. That's me since 1993. 877-525-0700 if you need a wage and hour lawyer. We'll be back in a minute to talk about the history of Los Angeles on Talk Radio 790 KBC. This is Karl Gerber from the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show.
The smell fills the building, overlap or near. But hey, man, I'm chilling as I calmly reload.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a results-oriented law firm whose goal is to get the client what they deserve. They've represented thousands of California employees who've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, subjected to employment discrimination, or were owed wages on an individualized or group basis, such as a class action. They have a high rate of success. There are few situations involving employment law that they have not confronted. At the forefront of employee rights, they're often the first employee law firm to confront a new legal issue. For an experienced employment lawyer, call 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, read more about the firm at employeelawca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. Make your work problem theirs to solve.
AM 790 KABC.
Talk Radio 790, KABC News Update. I'm Steve Cumming. House impeachment managers argue the Senate must eliminate the threat President Trump poses to America's national security in their brief filed this afternoon. The impeachment trial begins on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the president is mocking a proposal to build a seawall to protect New York City from flooding, saying a massive seawall is costly and foolish. He said residents will just have to get their mops and buckets ready. The New York Times reported yesterday a seawall was one of a number of ideas from the Army Corps of Engineers to help cities deal with more intense storms because of climate change. By the way, the president has called climate change a hoax, but Trump did apply to build a seawall around his golf resort in Ireland and said global warming was one of the reasons why it was needed. KABC SoCal weather, mostly cloudy tonight with lows in the mid-40s to mid-50s. More news coming up in 30 minutes, continuing coverage at KABC.com. I'm Steve Cumming, Talk Radio 790, KABC News.
Do you sell stuff online? Then you're probably still recovering from that crazy holiday shopping season. Well, there's a way to help you make 2020 less crazy and more successful. It's called ShipStation. ShipStation makes managing and shipping orders a breeze by allowing you to import orders from any sales channel, no matter where you're selling. ShipStation brings all your orders into one simple interface. They work with all major carriers, including USPS, FedEx, and UPS, allowing you to compare and choose the best shipping solution for you and your customer. ShipStation offers discounts on shipping rates so you can access the same discounts usually reserved for Fortune 500 companies. There's a reason ShipStation is the #1 choice of online sellers. Start this year right at ShipStation.com. Use offer code RADIO to get a 60-day trial free. That's 2 months free of no-hassle, stress-free shipping. Visit ShipStation.com. Click the microphone at the top of the page and type RADIO. That's ShipStation.com. Offer code RADIO. ShipStation. Make ship happen.
You're in charge of terms and conditions apply.
From the Queen Mary to the La Brea Tar Pits. Get it. Right. AM 790 KABC.
You'll agree, there's no one up in here working harder than me. Grousing.
Talk Radio 790 KBC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. I'm a real workplace lawyer, but I'm also a Los Angeles historian. And I know we have a lot of people tuning in now to talk about old Los Angeles. So this is my segue in. How much trouble do you have to go to sell something? Hell, I tried somebody to try to sell sponsorships for the show, and that went absolutely nowhere. But as of Wednesday, this show had, that's Thursday, I'm sorry, it had 143,574 internet listeners a month. The radio audience on this station is booming too. I can tell you, I don't think there are a lot of shows on this station that have that kind of internet listenership, but I can't get a sponsor for this show. And this episode might kill it because we're not doing the strangest, funniest comedy routines being produced on a weekly basis in order to sell the listener to bring them in. Now, if you've heard one of these weekly scripts, it really is crazy stuff. And I've covered, a lot of strange topics. So how much trouble do you have to go to sell something? Imagine a time in which the San Fernando Valley wasn't an economy booming more than any other part of Los Angeles County. You hear that statistic this week? The economy in the San Fernando Valley is stronger than Los Angeles County and the rest of California. Imagine trying to sell hot, arid farmland in the middle of nowhere, 15 miles from the city center in Van Nuys, a little closer in Lancashire. That's the original name for North Hollywood. All right, and a lot further if you're trying to sell land out in Owens Mouth, the original name for Canoga Park or Girard, that's Woodland Hills. So the original promoters of the San Fernando Valley, they're often referred to as the syndicate, and that's before maybe it was a negative kind of mob term, but they held the greatest land sale of all time. Everybody with a telephone in California was contacted. This is 1911. Now, if you look at the 1937 phone book in the San Fernando Valley, for lawyers like me, I wasn't practicing then, only since 93, but there are 14 lawyers in the 37-38 phone book, and only 2 of them had telephones. So maybe inviting everyone with a telephone in 1911 wasn't that big of a deal, but they also gave them a free rail pass to come out to this land auction in Van Nuys, and they had a barbecue. And having barbecues was kind of like the whole timeshare thing now, where you go to a timeshare thing in Hawaii and you get some cheesy dinner or whatever, and they try to sell you a timeshare. So, but you know what? That was called Track 1000, this land sale in 1911, and they sold a lot of them. 5 acres, 10-acre plots, even 20-acre plots. So you've also probably heard in Los Angeles that if you wanted to, get on a bus somewhere on Wilshire Boulevard in the 30s, maybe near the Ambassador Hotel, they drive you out to see these panaceas where you could buy your 5-acre or 15-acre little plot. Oh, a country view. Imagine that bus from Wilshire Boulevard taking you to those country views. Well, what do you need to sell it? What do you need to sell it if it's hot, arid desert? What you need is a country club, okay? And I don't know about these country clubs. I don't know if you think they're places where rich people sit with straw hats and they sip lemonade and hard liquor. Well, we had a big country club in Studio City, California, if you can believe that. I don't know if you can, but this country club spanned from across the street from where Jerry's Deli is to Ethel or Dixie Canyon along Ventura. That's about a mile, and it went south about 4 miles to Mulholland. This is 1923. That's a big country club with golf and horseback riding. And you know what the purpose of this was? And it was called the Hollywood Hills Country Club. But it wasn't in Hollywood. It was in Studio City. It wasn't called Studio City back then, though. But it was also called simply the Hollywood Country Club later. It was to sell Sherman Oaks and Studio City. And this country club, it was the biggest one in the area, but it wasn't the only one. If you're at all familiar with the geography, we're talking about Jerry's Deli on Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. The next country club was where the Buckley School is now on Stansbury. And that was started by Whitley. And if you've heard of Whitley, well, he's the original syndicate member from the land sale, but he's also the developer of Hollywood. And the Whitley Country Club in Sherman Oaks, before you get to Beverly Glen, if you're going west, that was there just a couple miles from this Hollywood Hills Country Club. And the Whitley Country Club, it was called Whitley Park. And that is where Mr. Whitley, the developer of Hollywood, died in 1931. I don't know if he was playing golf there or what he was doing. So last week, somebody posted a map, and they posted a map on Facebook, and when is this from was the question. You got a guy like me, I see that, and I'm going to figure that out. And I was able to figure it out because Whitley Park was on there, and Whitley Park is a defunct country club. And that renewed my whole interest in this because the Hollywood Hills Country Club, in my opinion, is one of the most fascinating things about Los Angeles history. And I spent 15 years trying to get an address on it. I probably spent 20 years trying to figure out where this gigantic thing was. If you can believe it, we had the Hollywood Hills Country Club in Studio City, and its clubhouse is the site where the Harvard Westlake School is now, and that doesn't exist anymore, of course. And so in 1920s, we had an original promoter. We always had promoters trying to sell land in Los Angeles. This was Harry Merrick. He sold a lot of the land in the valley. And the 1928 phone book lists him at room 1215 of the Taft Building. That's still there, isn't it? At 1680 North Vine. And his phone number was Granite 3157. And if you're younger, I don't know, maybe you don't know what a telephone is, but we didn't used to have prefixes. Granite would be spelling out your little phone number there. And that was obviously a Hollywood exchange, and that's 472. So these are all kind of things. You get a historian like me, and I've got 1928 phone books. I look at that. Merrick was a subdivider of the Hollywood Hills Country Club and Studio City. And he also was involved in the Studio City Central Motion Picture District, which now we know CBS is there, don't we? Near the farmer's market that happens on Sundays. And I found out that this guy, Mr. Merrick, had a residence at 3404 Troy Drive, which is near Universal Studios. And if you're trying to figure out where the residence is that a developer, original developer owned, usually doesn't have a year built. And so you don't get a year built for him because he built the whole development. So I found out about this myth about the Hollywood Hills Country Club because I may live on the 9th hole of the country club. And a neighbor told me this, and I've been a historian of Los Angeles my whole life. And he told me this in, 2001 or something, or 2001, that this used to be there, 2002. And I never heard of it because I'd seen no evidence of it. And if you go right now to Employee Law /Vintage LA, that's a website I maintain. And you can see a picture of what this massive development looked like with all the holes and all the stuff. And what's amazing is this went all the way to Mulholland Drive. It was absolutely gigantic. And this whole thing lasted probably 15 years, but probably not actually 15 years. I just imagine developing this gigantic country club with all these golf holes and riding trails and a big clubhouse and using it just to sell part of the San Fernando Valley. And then it just is no more. And there's no trace of it at all. No trace at all of this thing. And it just is so different than the way it is now in the city. You don't see that kind of large-scale recreation, but that's the way the Valley was back then. And yeah, there was a Hollywood Hills Country Club in Studio City, and there's one in Sherman Oaks, and just a couple miles, not even a couple miles, a mile down, there was a whole riding thing at Dixie Canyon. If you're familiar with the area, that's where the St. Francis School is in Dixie Canyon. There was a riding academy there also. So it was thought to be one of the best places to go horseback riding, to come out and to do that. And this was the Garden of Eden at the time. People thought this was just pristine land. And if you go to that website on employeelawca.com /vintage LA, you can look at all the pictures I found on the Hollywood Hills Country Club. And last week, I actually found one of the dining room. Only picture I've ever seen of the place. And if I hadn't found that picture, I almost would have thought it didn't exist. So if you have an employment case, I do hope you call me at the office during normal business hours at 877-525-0700. If you have a wrongful termination case, sexual harassment, unpaid wages, 877-525-0700. Once again, 877-525-0700. I'm one of those lawyers that actually have a phone number, and I'm in the phone book, I guess, somewhere, if they still have phone books. The other interesting one is Gerard. I don't know if you've heard of that, but he was a huckster, and a lot of these land promoters back then were just hucksters, and he got people out on the bus tours to go to Woodland Hills. That was, that was really far from the city. And he built a couple buildings along where Ventura Boulevard was, and it was very unusual architecture. I'm looking at one of them now, and I don't know if you classify it as Middle Eastern, and these were fronts. There was nothing there. They looked like a mosque-like village, and there was nothing in the stores. It was made to look like there was a booming business, and he sold people the same lots. He sold them very small lots sometimes, 3,000 square feet lots that were fire-prone, and he resold them over and over again. And his scheme was to get people to come out to look at this funny-looking mosque-like village and to buy land in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I mean, that just was really very far. So we have, of course, the Hollywood Hills Country Club in Studio City, and we have something called DUBROCKS, Dubrooks Riding Academy. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Dubrooks Riding Academy. It turned into a rowdy place by the end of it. This is Talk Radio 790 KBC. You're listening to Karl Gerber, Workplace Lawyer Show.
I'll forget my sins, yes, yes, I'll be making new friends where the West begins and the sunset ends.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a consistent force in fighting for the rights of California employees. They've represented thousands of employees in cases in which they've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, discriminated against at work, or owed wages individually or as a group such as a class action. The Employment Lawyers Group has maintained a high win rate and a serious record before the California courts. Please call 877-525-0700 for an experienced work lawyer. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, research the firm at worklawyerca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. If you hire the Employment Lawyers Group, your legal problem becomes theirs to solve.
Let's face it, most New Year's resolutions are hard to keep. Get more exercise, save more money. Well, here's a resolution that's easy to keep. Don't waste time going to the post office. Use Stamps.com instead. Stamps.com brings all the services of the post office to you. Plus, Stamps.com gives you something you can't get at the post office. Big discounts on postage, like 5 cents off every first-class stamp and up to 40% off priority mail. Print official U.S. postage from your computer for any letter, package, or class of mail anywhere you want to send. Once your mail is ready, just hand it to your mail carrier or drop it in the mailbox. It's that simple. No wonder over 700,000 small businesses already use Stamps.com. So give yourself a resolution you can actually keep this year. Save time and money with Stamps.com. Right now, you can get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage and digital scale, with no long-term commitments and no risk. That's Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in code RADIO. Stamps.com, promo code RADIO. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again.
Capital One knows life doesn't alert you about your credit card.
Next stop, Graham Street. And Brian in the khaki shorts. Your G&L energy bill went up 60% this month. Seems like you want to know. Stand clear of the closing doors.
So, meet Eno, the Capital One assistant that catches things that might look wrong, like increases to a recurring bill, then sends an alert to your phone and helps you fix it. Eno, another way Capital One is watching out for your money when you're not. Capital One, what's in your wallet? See CapitalOne.com for details. Limitations apply.
America's largest producer of gun shows, Crossroads of the West, is back this weekend at the OC Fair and Event Center. Great deals on guns, ammo, accessories, and you can buy, sell, and trade. All sales are conducted in compliance with applicable laws.
Retirement should be one of the best times of your life, and it can be, as long as you're not worried about money. Join us at a complimentary Retirement Planners of America seminar, and we'll show you how to protect and maximize your retirement savings so your money lasts as long as you do.
Next seminar is Saturday, January 18th at the Sheraton Pasadena Hotel.
At Retirement Planners of America, we want your money to last as long as you do. Learn more at rpoa.com.
Terms and conditions apply.
Fighting in the trenches for you.
Let's go!
Catch the Ben Shapiro Show, afternoons 3 to 6 on AM 790 KABC.
And I think you'll agree, there's no one up in here working harder than me. Grousing, griping, I guess I could be grumbling. The job ain't always fun, there's people always bumbling. The only thing jamming some days is the printer.
Unilocks portable hair dryer. It's smaller, it's faster, it's guaranteed to give you the hair you've always wanted in half the time. Unilocks is delicate and dainty, just like you. The dryer weighs only a pound and easily fits in your hand. Now that's beauty and convenience. With a speedy motor that will dry your hair in as little as 25 minutes, you can get gorgeous hair without falling behind schedule. Don't worry about the little ones or that pie in the oven. Thanks to an extra long extension cord, you can move around while printing your locks. Forget those long trips to the salon and no more waiting for hours under monster machines. Avanche gives you an easy and speedy hairdo that will blow your man away. Get it now at your nearest Macy's.
I don't think there was a Macy's in Los Angeles in 1920. There was a Bullock's and a Broadway, but not a Macy's. So this is Talk Radio 790 KBC. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. We're in 2020, but we're talking about the 1920s. Can you believe that? We're talking about the San Fernando Valley and how it originally started. And I don't know what to say. So we had a country club we talked about in Studio City called the Hollywood Hills Country Club, and it was in Studio City, not Hollywood. And if you went to the Buckley School many years ago, or you went to the Harvard Westlake School when it was just Harvard, I'd like you to call in because I'd like to hear if you were in that original clubhouse building. The line is 800-222-5222. I'm sorry, we're not talking about California labor laws in this segment. 800-222-5222 for history, Los Angeles history, San Fernando Valley history, anything you know about these defunct country clubs. 800-222-5222. So the second little place we had was a little bit rowdier. We found out that there was something called the Holly Height Polo and Hunt Club. This was where Dixie Canyon and St. Francis are now in Sherman Oaks, and Dixie Canyon's the school Cindy Brady went to, if you ever watched the Brady Bunch. And so this is between, Fulton and Woodman, or Woodman and Coldwater. And so Coldwater is Diaz Canyon in 1938. 1940, it becomes Coldwater Canyon. And that's where the Hollywood Hills Country Club is. And the other one's down the street. And this other one was a rowdy place. I found a WPA map from the 30s, and it lists out the danger zones. It puts them in red, the places where, there's a lot of vice and police calls. And this one appeared on there. And that's kind of interesting. You can imagine who's going there in the 30s, and the combination of being able to swim and have equines and, dancing there just creates a lot of hooligans probably coming in. Oh, I don't know what kind of cars those would be. But this one also had alleged steeplechase horse activities. It had horses, and people would go there, and it backed up right to Los Angeles River. This is one of these ones where I can't find the picture of it. I've been looking for many, many years, and there's someone named Martin Thurmball who has some vintage interests, and he has a website, and he found some kind of a advertisement for this place called Rudy's. The name changed 3 or 4 times in 12 years, and I deciphered that this was like a club promoter from the 1930s, and they were actually probably living in Bunker Hill. They had a Bunker Hill phone exchange on there, and they were promoting events, I think, at this particular establishment. So if you have actually some knowledge of some of these defunct country clubs, which there seem to be quite a few of in the area, and I'm not sure that they were just in the San Fernando Valley, but it does seem that they were used to promote the San Fernando Valley, I'd like you to call in. I'd like to hear about this. No one has ever told me they went to these establishments. I don't know if they could anymore because they were clearly gone by 1937. 800-222-5222. 800-222-5222. 800-222-5222. And if you want to drop me a line about it too, I would appreciate that. And besides employeelawca.com-vintage LA, I have another vintage website, which is simply called vintagelosangeles.org. And you're going to find some real rare stuff in there. I have a collection, and I have posted things. I have the original plans to City Hall, for instance. There's stuff I have that really is nowhere else, and I'm sure to keep it in the right condition about Los Angeles. I've been studying this since I was a little kid in the 70s. All right, so we had a land sale we've talked about in the San Fernando Valley. We had country clubs to get people to come on in and to do that, and these were on top of each other. Every mile there was this large area where it was just recreation. And some of you I know too have talked about the horseback riding on Sunset Boulevard, and there was a trail, and that certainly was in the 20s. I think the trail on Sunset may have gone on until the 40s, and people would ride horses. And of course, Brentwood always was a great place for horses, and that trail would go there. And I know that some people that lived in Beverly Hills, once the trail left, they'd go on bike rides on this trail along Sunset. And I've also heard people talking about how they did horseback riding in the hills around Sherman Oaks in the 60s and maybe even till the very early 70s. It was just still a great place for horseback riding. Now in Los Angeles, unless you're in an equine zone like Burbank, I think you have to have a minimum of 5 acres in order to have horses. But I think this is something that a lot of people don't know is the whole area was just, it was this big place for riding horses. And there were places to ride horses in all over Los Angeles, but anywhere from the Valley to Sunset Boulevard to Brentwood and all these places now where they're $20, $30 million homes. It was a very different city. So now, with all these minimum wage hikes, and I don't think people with minimum wage can afford housing. No one can afford housing in Los Angeles, but nobody is going to be able to do that. The other thing I want to share with you is just think about some of the professions that people had in the 30s and 40s. I'm looking here in a phone book from the San Fernando Valley, and it's from the 20s. It's from 23. We had someone who was a packer. The phone book would list their occupations. We had a horticulture inspector. We had somebody just into meats. I hope none of the Remus Helms variety. We had pumpers. I don't know if that was water pumping or I don't think it was oil pumping, but there was oil everywhere. And we had something called V-Press. I'm not sure what V-Press is. I'm going to have to look that up. We had fruit packers. And you go to a Los Angeles phone book within the 10 years, and you had all kinds of people listing themselves as buyers or purchasing agents. That was a big profession. And you had tinners. I don't think we have any tinners anymore. And you'd also see people which would list their professions as ranchers and things like that. So it was a different time. And nowadays there's all this privacy stuff. And so we don't list our professions in a phone book, but I think on the internet, people can find out what you do and it's not a big thing. Now, the other thing with these country clubs, I don't really know what kind of dining experiences there were along Ventura Highway in the 30s or the 20s. I don't think too many. They did have dining. And so you see these announcements in the newspapers about how so-and-so had a luncheon at the Hollywood Hills Country Club. And for a while, I thought this was just to kind of promote the fact that we had a big lamb promoter and he's saying he had a luncheon there. But now that I've got this picture of the dining room with that country club, now we know that's for real. And you can look at that on, that's going to be employeelawca.com/vintage LA. You can see this picture of the dining room. And I spent almost 20 years, and that's the only picture I ever found of this Hollywood Hills Country Club. It's just totally lost in time. And the structure was gigantic. It was 180 feet long and 80 feet wide and 2 stories. And, no trace of this, no trace of any of these anymore. And the Buckley School is on the Whitley Park Country Club, and that's different too. So back to business. I am a real workplace lawyer. Next week, we're going to have a witch hunt on this show, but I'd like you to call me normal business hours about a real sexual harassment case at 877-525-0700, a real wrongful termination case. You've got to be fired. We can't just do, I think I'm being discriminated against. 877-525-0700. A wage case, unpaid wages, misclassified. I'm a wage and hour class action when I'm not doing sketch comedy or I'm not doing history. So I do a couple different things. 877-525-0700 gets you to me. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KBC. Have a wonderful week of workplace abuse. If you do, I think you know where to call. And next week, we're back to crazy comedy, okay, with I told you it's going to be a witch hunt, and, it's going to be a little bit outrageous. So tune in next week or listen on the Karl Gerber with the K channel on YouTube. Have a good week at work.
The home of Ben Shapiro. KABC, Los Angeles, Orange County, and KLOS HD2 Los Angeles.
Gun rally fears. I'm Evan Haining. Prince Harry's wish to lead a more normal life has gotten a royal stamp of approval.
Harry, Meghan, and members of my family.
That's Queen Elizabeth's reaction as reported by correspondent Anna Stewart. The Queen had warm words for daughter-in-law Meghan as she approved the couple's decision to leave their royal duties, repay some tax money spent on their behalf, and move to North America.
HRH, His and Her Royal Highness. It is not being stripped from them, but they've decided they will not use it. In a following statement from Buckingham Palace, they are required to step back from royal duties, including official